What's going on, guys? It is Shivram here, and we are back with another video. Hello Neighbor is a game with very many follow-ups to the point where they are no longer Hello Neighbor based games, but just in their own category of storyline. And with Hello Neighbor being a very controversial game itself, these other games share the same story, striking debates claiming this game is going to be the Hello Neighbor savior, and this game is going to absolutely ruin the series because of the lore, or because of AI, or just because it wasn't what they were hoping for. Anyway, what I'm going to be doing for you guys is going over every game and doing a realistic assessment on which games were the best and which games were the worst, rating them all out of 10 based off of gameplay, AI, originality, and of course overall fun. So this will purely be on an outsider's perspective on the enjoyment of the game, not about the story or the lore, because every game is pretty much a cliffhanger anyway. If you guys enjoy, please make sure to like and subscribe. Not even 20% of you guys to subscribe, so why not be in that minority of epic gamers and see when I upload new videos? Anyway, let's get right into the video. Alright, so the first thing we're going to be talking about is Hello Neighbor Original, the classic game, the one that brought tinyBuild to fame and jump-started the whole entire series. Now, the way I'm going to rank this is, of course, by its final game. Alright, so the first thing we need to talk about is the gameplay. The gameplay was excelling in the puzzle way, but horrible in the platforming way, which even though Hello Neighbor had a good mix of the two, I'll give it the benefit of the doubt for having things like the Act 1 house, which are pretty much pure puzzle-based. The game also, when it comes to puzzles, has some really hard ones. Whether this is a positive or a negative is up to the user, but I'm going to say it's a little bit of both because the puzzles make the game actually take a while, but then there's some puzzles that get in the way and just kind of ruin the experience. The AI in the final game was, to be honest, relatively poor. They ended up nerfing the AI throughout the alphas a lot, giving us a neighbor that in the end was just an annoyance. I'd probably even say that this is one of the worst AIs of all the games. The plus of this game, however, is the originality. The idea of discovering what's under his basement by breaking into a house and solving mysteries while being chased down by the owner himself is something never done before, not even anything similar. So with that being said, Hello Neighbor is a crazy original game, which is what brings it up to a 7 out of 10 for me. Good originality, good puzzles, but bad AI, and not the most user-friendly game overall. Anyway, it's on to the next game, Hello Neighbor Hide and Seek. Now, Hello Neighbor Hide and Seek is seen as one of the worst games, especially since it was a sequel to the really successful Hello Neighbor. Although, I don't think it deserves a crazy low rating. The gameplay aspect is very similar to Hello Neighbor, not very good by any means, and the AI is terrible. I mean, the kid is hardly part of the game. But once again, the originality and puzzles are super impressive. The whole idea of trying to get all the stuffed animals by unlocking different paths and ways to get places is something that only tinyBuild could do correctly, if we're all being honest. As for the rating, I would also give it a 7 out of 10 because it really strikes me as another Hello Neighbor with a very similar playstyle that's annoying but enjoyable at the same time. The next game showing up in the timeline is Secret Neighbor, classified as Hello Neighbor multiplayer to bring up the hype. Now let's talk about the gameplay of the game. It's not good. I would say parkour is better here than in Hello Neighbor, and I have plenty of parkour videos to prove it, but in reality, there's not much parkour to be doing. The game was glitchful, which was normal for Hello Neighbor games, but isn't so good in a game that's meant to be a lot less sneaking and a lot more running around with a group of people trying to grab items hardly grabbable in the massive drawers that they're hidden in. With this being a multiplayer game, there's no AI and no puzzles, so for us to rate it, we need to talk about the servers and balance, which are once again horrible factors. The servers are almost always empty and filled with hackers or people who don't speak the same languages, and the balancing is just as horrible. Get the neighbor, I guarantee you 90% of the time, you've already lost. Kids are just too overpowered for the game to be playable. Even with minimal communication, just staying together makes it impossible and just not fun. As for originality, it had a somewhat original concept, although games like Deceit did the job 100 times better while being years before Secret Neighbor, and games afterward, like Among Us, completely make Secret Neighbor obsolete. I know this game was where I started with my YouTube channel, but I only ever made glitch videos because playing the game was unbearable, and even though I was hoping for the best, the game is just awful overall. I'd probably give it a 2 out of 10 to be honest. The next game we're going to be talking about is the Hello Guest prototype. This secret game was very interesting and kind of came out of nowhere, but this game was absolutely fantastic. The gameplay was still a bit weird, a little bit of parkour, and not perfect physics, but they were fun for me, because even though the parkour wasn't met with amazing physics, all of the parkour is found by exposing parts of buildings, leaving a small puzzle element to it, for example, climbing the rails on the building to reach the top of it. The AI in this game is another great aspect. I've never seen a Hello Neighbor game with such little bugs. The guest has one job: chase you when you look away and run away when you look, and that idea is executed perfectly while making the game unbelievably scary. This was the first Hello Neighbor game to make me genuinely scared to play it and actually get jump scared pretty hard, which is kind of what the games are meant to do. The originality is another aspect that can't be beat. The player watches an amusement park earning money for the ships, which can be used to purchase items that are required in puzzles later in the game, with the main puzzle being launching the roller coaster. This game is has so much fun and is the perfect level of difficulty. I was literally so nervous while riding the roller coaster, hoping I did it right because the motivation to beat it was greater than any other game for me. Not to mention, the game made me angry, but not angry enough to ruin the fun. Games like Hello Neighbor get so angering you just want to turn it off, but Hello Guest Prototype gets angering to where you hate the guest for scaring you and want to work for this victory just to see his upset reaction when you finally attack against him and uncover his secrets. Absolutely amazing game. I say play this one. Besides textures not being done, this game is perfect. 10 out of 10 or maybe 9 out of 10 just for the textures. Moving on to Hello Guest Real Alpha. The gameplay of this game is a bit more similar to the original Hello Neighbor physics than the original prototype. However, the parkour in this game is very minimal, which I like. The AI, however, is horrible. There's a lot more buildings in this map, making the new guest somewhat obsolete. And also with that, the guest is just easier than the prototype, removing the scary aspect. On the first night, the guest can't even catch you, for goodness sake. Mix that with the fact that there's hardly any jump scare noise, this game has no horror or any reason to really care about the main antagonist of the game. The originality of this game is, of course, well done, although it is taken from the prototype, but of course, they use that prototype as a test for this game, so we're gonna give it the plus on the originality. As for puzzles, there's only one puzzle, and it is ridiculously difficult that uses a massive amount of brain to figure out. It's a really likable game in my opinion, and way better than Secret Neighbor, so they're coming back strong. I'm gonna give it a 6 out of 10. I'm gonna put it right below Hello Neighbor because Hello Neighbor's AI was annoying, but it at least worked. In my opinion, the guest one just really doesn't, to be honest. And the puzzles are a lot more accessible in Hello Neighbor, while Hello Guest has one. Even though it's just an alpha, there's only one single puzzle, and it's really difficult. So yeah, 6 out of 10 for them. Now on to the final game, the current game everyone is playing, Hello Neighbor 2. This game is meant to be the next Hello Neighbor, and we see that with a very similar style to the old game, using a house and a neighbor-like AI. The gameplay of this game is very buggy. It's not a very well-made game, but it is Alpha 1, so we do need to give it some time to fix that up. Another part of the game that's important is the parkour. There's a decent amount in Hello Neighbor 2 as you jump around and climb certain things, but that is the feature that needs to be discussed the most. The climbing feature in Hello Neighbor 2 is amazing. It makes all the angry parts of the game with parkour almost non-existent, as the player can grapple onto parts of the map, making a more realistic and much less annoying experience. The AI of this game is okay. It's rather similar to Hello Neighbor's and is pretty buggy, causing a bunch of problems and glitches, but the charm in this game comes from the open world originality. The change to this game requiring a whole new idea for Hello Neighbor gives another chance to Tiny Build, and while the game isn't perfect, it is just an Alpha 1. I'm gonna give this game an overall 8 out of 10. However, that is a massive subject to change if the game doesn't improve some of the many flaws that made Hello Neighbor a failure, because they are listening now. There's things like surveys that you should 100% check out, and whenever people are complaining about things directly through that survey, I'm hoping that Tiny Build decides to fix those things, because if they don't fix those things that ended up making Hello Neighbor terrible, like the bugs and the annoying AI that could 100% be improved, the game will end up failing again. Although I'm pretty sure Tiny Build knows what they're doing. I mean, after all, they did make a bunch of games, and they're having the survey for a reason, so they're 100% attempting to get people to show a response and have themselves improve on the game. Anyway, guys, that is pretty much going to be all for this video. If you enjoyed, please make sure to like and subscribe. You made it all the way to the end. Did you agree with these rankings? I know this is a very controversial topic, just talking about which games are good, which games are bad, because I know there's going to be some people in the comments saying that Secret Neighbor is a 10 out of 10, or Hello Neighbor 2 is terrible, and Hello Neighbor 2 is a 0 out of 10. I don't know. Just people have very swayed opinions about these games, and that's just my opinion on this game. Just going through all the gameplay, all the parkour, all that stuff, AI, that's how I would rate it all. It would also be a different rating based off of the lore, because like Hello Neighbor would be way lower because the lore was so hyped up and just ended up sucking. Although games like Hello Neighbor Hide and Seek kind of helped confirm some things, and I feel like that might have had a little bit of a better story and ending than Hello Neighbor. But yeah, let me know your guys' opinions. Let's start some discussions down in the comments below. I'll respond to them, and while you're at it, join my Discord so that way we can actually have a full-blown talk about the game, about theories, about lore, about pretty much everything Hello Neighbor. That'll be down in the description below. Anyway, guys, as always, I will see you in the next video. Peace out.